Hey everybody, it's Valerie with J&S Hobbies and Crafts, and I am here to show off my latest mini album that I just finished using Heartfelt Creations Festive Holly Christmas paper that was just released. And this album turned out really cool. I'm kind of happy with it. This is an 8.5 by 6.5 inch album, and embellished on the front of it are these gorgeous handmade poinsettias. And let me go ahead and zoom in. So you can see here that I created all the flowers myself, and then also I've attached some cute little holly berries and embellished them with little 5mm pearls. And I explain later in the free tutorial how I made those and the steps I took. So if you're ready, let's get started and I'll show off this gorgeous album. This is the cover, and it is embellished, like I said, with our poinsettias. I've fussy cut some gorgeous little cardinals out of the paper, and this little lantern is also fussy cut out of the paper. It is adorned with some bling, and then on the side we have one of those beautiful Tim Holtz ornate plates and some flat back pearls. So got a Dritz hook and eye with some red and white ribbon that I put together. You ready to get inside? Alright, so here's the first page. Ourselves tag. And then there is plenty of room for lots more mats. This is a nice big page that you can put a picture on. And of course the wonderful magnets that we carry keep everything inside. Page 2. It's got a nice big pocket. I didn't make as many mats as you can make, but page 3. Plenty of room for pictures. Lots of mats. Page 4. A little tag tucked in here for you to do some journaling on. Nice big pockets, beautiful lace. Another big pocket. This paper is beautiful. Another little tag stuck in here. Okay. Now this one really comes out, so I'm gonna zoom back out a little bit. Now, so we got a big picture here. It opens up, okay? We got plenty of places to put some beautiful mats right here. Love this desire die. And this, you'll have to move over. This opens up. Another place for picture. And then this is fun. This is an accordion. So you have plenty of places to journal or whatever you need to do with this. And it's all put together with a magnet. So this gives you plenty of space. And over here, you've got a pocket. It opens up, and you've got a pocket here. There's some beautiful desire dies. And this has got a little side pocket for you to put a couple, 2 or 3 pictures in. Now, so I got a couple of little slide out picture mats in there. Let's put this back. Okay. I blinged it up a lot. And then we've got a beautiful waterfall. Took advantage of this paper. I really did. And this one has a shallow pocket. Nice, lots of flowers. Opens up. Place for mats. I'll flip up. Another place for pictures, maybe some journaling. Okay. This is another little fun. This has got a pocket here. So you've got that. And then this, I'm gonna have to kind of move it, opens up with, it's got a magnet. Folds out, folds down, and folds over. So you've got lots of great places to stash pictures. Close it up. Lots of my little berries and poinsettias that I made in here. Just that. And over here, we've got this little fold out here. It's got a couple of small places to put some smaller pictures or a tag. Picture here. Go ahead and this folds down. We've got a place for a picture here and a place for a large picture here. And you can always stick stuff right up and over this lace or right up underneath of it. So, this is my Festive Holly mini album. Are you ready to get started making your own? Well, let's go. So we're going to be using the new Heartfelt Creations Festive Holiday Collection. And this is so pretty. So I'll just flip through it really quick for you. We're not going to do the whole thing, but it is really, really, really pretty. So you can kind of see what's going on. I have a lot of really cool ideas, and I can't wait to put this album together. So, oops. Festive Holiday HCP1 to decorate some of the borders of the pockets. We'll be using Heartfelt Creations Floor Border Basics, number HCD17120. We'll be using this beautiful Desire metal die, and this is called Sophie, and it looks like that. And when it's actually cut, this is what it looks like. I just absolutely love this. I'm so excited to get to use it. We'll be using the EK Tools Large Edge Punch, and this is just stunning. Number is, it's called Diamond Flowers 54-50088. One of the paper punches that we're going to be using is a Martha Stewart half-inch punch, and this is called the Arbor Loop. So for our closure, we'll be using these extra large hooks and eyes by Dritz. These particular ones are nickel plated. We also carry other ones too as well. And we're going to be using some magnets. But let's see if I can actually get them apart. These are so strong. So we'll be using these, and these come in a package like this. So to adorn the side of our mini album, we're going to be using Tim Holtz ornate plates, and as you can see, there's 6 of them in here, so you can use quite a few of these in the future as well. So everybody should have a little bling in their life, so we also will be using this single strand silver bling, and this stuff is amazing. We'll be doing some of our trim work in this beautiful white flat back pearl trim. Everybody needs a little bling. These are 1/2 inch flat back blings. And then we have 1/4 inch flat back bling. And these are just little, kind of like flat back rhinestones. The best tool ever that I ever have used is my tool-in-one, and it's how I get all those tiny little pieces of paper out of the dies after you use them. You really need to have one of these. And also for our closure, we'll be using some white 1/2 inch, oh no, maybe it's about 1/4 inch ribbon. I'll also be using a 1/4 inch score tape, our art glitter glue, and I suggest that you get the metal tip that comes with it because it's great for doing fine lines of glue. So we're going to be using Tyvek to put our album together, and we sell these 5 in a package, so that will last you a really long time. We're also going to be using Coordinations premium cardstock called Black Cat. This is our 65 pound, and for the base of our skeleton of our album, we're going to be using chipboard black. This is a medium weight chipboard. You can buy it in 25 sheets of 12 by 12. We also sell it single sheets. And the collection for this year's Heartfelt Creations holiday paper is the Festive Holly and Cardinals. And we'll be using them to create some of the 3D things on the cover and with inside the album. And the Festive Holly of Cardinals is HCD17145. And the Festive Holly and Cardinals stamp is HCPC3791. To make the poinsettias for our mini album today, we're going to be using Heartfelt Creations Sparkling Poinsettia dies and stamps. And this is the stamp, and it is HCPC3680. And this is the die, and it's HCD1766. The pigments I'll be using for my poinsettia plants is going to be the Memento Tuxedo Black, Memento Ladybug, Colorbox Scarlet, Colorbox Cranberry, Colorbox Citrine, Colorbox Willow. So I pre-made my flowers ahead of time, but I wanted to give you just a little heads up about how I did it. I took some of my white cardstock and I pre-stamped using my Ladybug Memento color ink, and this is what they look like when I pre-stamped them, and I cut them out with the die, of course. And then I took the Ladybug and went along the edges, so I just went along the edges of these, and once that was dry, I went back with the Colorbox Scarlet, give you that closer, and darkened the edges even a little bit more. And then of course when I was done, I used my flower shaping essential tools and shaped all of the flowers. Just to give you an idea of what they look like, here is one of my flowers. Here's another one. And of course these are poinsettias. Now before I put them together, set these down, I used my glossy accents to make them nice and shiny. And then I put in some stickles around the edges of each of the petals. And the centers have some, this is Gilt Trip Prills. Okay? The light kind of shines. So that's how I did my flowers. Once again, I pre-stamped, colored, and then put them all together. Okay, so on the holly berries and leaves, I once again pre-stamped, and then you can see I pre-colored in. And on the little berries, I'm actually going to use some pearls. And these are like a little 3/16 of an inch pearls. They're really, really tiny. I'm trying to see, they say 5mm pearls. And this might come as a shock to you, but I'm actually going to glue them down in the centers where these pearls go. I'm going to use a Sharpie, and I'm going to color the tops of the little pearls and make them look three-dimensional. So I'll show you those when I'm done. Well, these came from the Cardinals and Holly package that we talked about earlier, and I stamped out the little hollies, and underneath of them are flat little holly berries. What I did was I actually took some of these 3/16 of an inch flat back pearls and I attached them, and then I took my Sharpie, a red Sharpie, and colored them in. So now what I have is three-dimensional hollies. I know it's hard to see because it gets kind of blurry when I get close, but if you can see that, and we'll be embellishing the cover of our album with these. So we're going to start by making our skeleton of our album, and you'll need to get 2 pieces of your chipboard. This is the 12 by 12 medium weight chipboard that I told you you would need, and you will need 2 pieces. Go ahead and take your first one. I want you to measure over 8.5 inches and cut. So this is what you should have. This piece is going to become our spine, but I'm going to set it aside for just a moment. So I want you to take this one, turn it landscape, measure over 6.5 inches, and cut. So this is what you should have. This one is 8.5 by 6.5. You're going to take your other piece of chipboard and do the exact same thing as you did to this one. You're going to measure over 8.5 inches and cut. And then you're going to measure over 6.5 inches and cut. I want you to take one of those 3.5 inch pieces, that's 3.5 this way. This is going to become your spine. So you want to measure over 8.5 inches and cut. So this is the piece you're going to keep for your spine, and you can just put this away someplace for another project. When you're done, this is what you should have. You'll have 8.5 by 6.5 twice, and 3.5 by 8.5. Cover, spine, back. Set this aside for a minute and go ahead and get out your Tyvek. Okay? You're going to be cutting 2 pieces of Tyvek. Each of them are going to be 1 inch wide and 8 inches long. So let's go get those cut. Okay, so this is what you should have. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit so you can see. Now, we're going to take those 2 1 inch by 8 inch pieces of Tyvek and we're going to score them. So let's get our scoreboard out. We're going to score each one at 1/2 inch. Now it might be a little wiggly, so don't worry if you get it off a little bit. This is kind of the hardest part to do, is to get this to stay. So, and I'm trying to do it and hold on to it too. Okay, so we scored one at 1/2 inch, and we'll do the other one. Okay, so let's go ahead and fold them on half. Now what you're going to do is you're going to actually put score tape on the right side of the seam and the left side of the seam crease, and then right against the border. Now it's probably going to overlap, but that's okay. So just make sure that you don't put any score tape right on the crease. Now we are actually putting the score tape with the peak up, and what I mean by the peak up is that it's folded, so this would be the peak. So just set it down, and you're going to have to flatten it out. So let's go ahead and put our score tape on. Right next to the crease, all the way down, and then one right against the edge, and you're going to do this on both sides. Now mine's going to overlap, but that's okay. Sometimes I have a hard time getting it started. There we go. Once again, make sure you do not go over the edge or you'll have to clip it off later. If you make sure that you clean your hands of any lotion or any debris that you might have on your hands, because if you start messing around with your score tape, it's actually going to make it less sticky. So you always want to make sure that you clean your hands. It's almost impossible not to touch the score tape once you start pulling off the backing. So it just makes it a little easier so things don't fall apart on you. I want you to go ahead and do the other one the same way. Now make sure that you don't have anything popping over the edges. If you do, you got to make sure you clip them off. Okay, so I'm going to snip off this little piece that I have hanging over the edge here. Looks like I did pretty good on the rest of it. So clean them all up. Fold them back over. And let's get your spine out. Okay? So these are 8. And this is 8.5. So I'm going to turn it sideways. And what I want you to do is I want you to measure at 1/4 inch right on the edge of your spine, and at 8 1/4. And you might as well just do that on both sides. This is going to help with the placement of our Tyvek. So 1/4 and 8 1/4. Okay? Alright, so get your first piece of Tyvek, and I want you to go ahead and pull off one side. And if you use the back of your craft knife to make sure that it's all secure, it really makes it a lot easier to pull off. So go ahead and pull off the backing of only one side. So that's going to be 2 pieces, side by side. Sometimes it takes a couple seconds to get it to come up. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put the piece that we took the backing off down. Make sure that your peak is here and the opening is on your right. We're working on this side first, on my left. So what I want you to do is go ahead and place it right on the little score mark that we made, the little mark that we made right at the bottom, okay? So place it right against this edge is where this fold is going to go. So if you place it down, it makes it a little bit easier to kind of move it right along the edge. Sorry about the noise. I know people get disturbed when things get noisy, but unfortunately I work next door to the shop and the guys are working over there, so I don't really have a choice. So I would like for you to get one of your sides. This is what I'm going to consider the cover. Let me zoom back out a little bit. Okay. So you're going to get one of your sides. Now what you want to do is look at the edges of each of these when you pick them up. This, you want the edge that was cut is usually going to be the one that's the worst looking. So what we want to do is take that edge and put it up against the spine edge. That way it's not going to show if you don't cover or wrap your entire album, and we are not going to be wrapping this one. So what I want you to do is go ahead and take off the other edge, the other 2 pieces of backing on the other side, okay? And you're going to push this 8.5 by 6.5 right up against the spine so that it's even on both ends down here, right even with each other. Push over your little piece of Tyvek right in the center and then go up and down. So it should make a little hinge. All right, so let's get our other piece of Tyvek and once again take off one side first. All right, once again fold it over so that this time the peak is on the right and the opening is on the left. Place the bottom right up against that little pencil mark that we made and just give it a little press. And then guide it along the right edge of the spine. Just like that. Okay? Press it down on the inside. Now we're going to take off the other side of the score tape backing. Sometimes I get it the first trip. Alright, good job. Now, again, find your other piece of 8.5 by 6.5. Find the roughest edge. For me, that's right here. Okay, push it right up against this side. Make sure that they're even, top and bottom. Push your Tyvek over in the middle, up and down. Okay. You should now have, now never bend it backwards. If you bend it backwards, you're going to break it. So you never want to bend this backwards, okay? Now you're going to need one piece of cardstock. And this is going to be the covers. So we're going to turn it this way. I want you to cut 2 pieces of cardstock that are 1.5 inches wide and 8 1/4 inches long. So the smartest thing to do would be to cut 3 inches over. So measure over and cut 3 inches. So this is what you should have. I'm going to go ahead and put this in my stockpile. Now, there's something that we need to talk about real quick. We make 2 piles. This cardstock and all the remnants for the cardstock go into a stockpile. And then when you start cutting into your really pretty paper, we're going to call it a reserve pile. Once in a while, I'll have you keep a piece and say you set it off to the side. And I want to make sure that you put that off to the side and not in your reserve or your stock. So cardstock goes into a stock pile, pretty paper goes into a reserve pile, and then once in a while we'll set something aside for a different page. So what you should have now is this piece, and this piece is 3 inches by 8.5. We want to cut off, measure over 8 1/4 and cut. So this is what you should have. Normally I would keep everything. It doesn't matter what it is, because you never know if you're going to use it throughout the process. So you just want to put all your little scraps into your stockpile from your cardstock. I'm not going to keep this little 1/4 inch piece. So now what you need to do is measure over 1.5 inches and cut. Well, this is what you should have. 2 strips at 1.5 by 8 1/4. Go ahead and get out your scoreboard. And we're going to be scoring these down the middle. So at 3/4 of an inch, you're going to score each one. Go ahead and fold these. And we're going to do these exactly the same way as we did the tie-back. They're going to have their peaks up so that they are folded with the opening down. And we're going to put score tape right along the edge of both of the scores, and then one on the edge of each one. So let's get your score tape out. And the same as we did before, you want to make sure you do not have, oops, anything going over the edges. Apparently I'm having score tape technical difficulties. We're going to do it on the other side. Remember, if you get anything over the edges, you need to cut it all off. Okay, so let's check my edges. I've got a little bit up here. And I got a little bit down here. Try to get all that off my scissors, otherwise it makes them kind of hard to use. Alright, so this is what you should have. Again, peak open. And you're going to do the same thing to the other one. So this is what you should have when you're done. If it's easier, go ahead and use your craft knife to secure all your score tape down. Go ahead and bring over your album. Sorry, I tend to talk and then don't finish my sentences, and I apologize. On the spine, go ahead and get your ruler. And I would like for you to make pencil marks just like we did before, only this time you're going to make one at a 1/8, okay? And over here you're going to go at 1/8 3/8. Okay, does that make sense? So you're going to measure over an 1/8 here and an 8 3/8 on this side, and do it both sides. All right, let's turn it back this way. Go ahead and get your first piece of cover-up that we just did, and take off one side of the backing of the score tape. Fold it over. Now we're going to do the same thing we did before, okay? So peak on the left, opening on the right. I'm starting on the left-hand side first. Okay, let me zoom back out just a tiny bit. All right. So you're going to make sure that you stay on the right-hand side of the crease down the center of your tie back. So that's this crease. So you want to keep this folded edge just on the right side of that line. First start off right where you put your little pencil mark. Okay, give it a little. And you want to just run this right down that line. A nice thing about the tie back is sometimes if you make a boo-boo, you can get it back up. So that should be right on that line, okay? Push it down. Go ahead and take off the other side of the backing. We're going to do the same thing. We'll push it over in the center and up, okay? So you should see all your tie back is covered. Go ahead and do the other side. Pull up one side of your backing. Fold it over. Once again, peak on this side, opening on this side. Lay it down on the little pencil mark you made. We're going to make sure, we're on the left-hand side of that fold that we did in the Tyvek. This time we're on the left-hand side of it. Run it right along the edge. Okay. Push it down. Take off the other half of the score tape backing. Push it over in the middle, up and down. So there you go. Once again, don't ever fold it backwards or you'll break your album. Let's get on to the pages. So go ahead and set your album aside for a moment. And you want to get out your black 65-pound cardstock. Okay? Okay, so you're going to measure over 6 7/8 and cut. Okay, and this is going to go in your stockpile. And then you're going to turn it this way and measure over 8 1/4 and cut. We're going to take these pieces that we cut off and put them in our stockpile. Now go ahead and get your scoreboard out. Put them in portrait style so that they're the 6 3/4 across. And we're going to score at 6 1/4. Okay? On each one. So once you're done with scoring them, go ahead and take and fold them over. And if you want to use your bone folder to get them nice and creased, you can do that. So now we're going to apply the score tape. And very similar to the way that we did the other ones, we're going to always make sure that the fold is going down. Okay, so we're going to take our score tape, and you're going to be placing score tape with this fold is on the right, and we're going to put score tape on the right side of the score mark, the fold we just made, and then on the edge. Do not put score tape over your fold. Okay, so you're going to run your score tape along the right-hand side of your fold here. Don't want any over your edges, and one right along the right edge, the cut edge. Try to get as close as you can, but you once again do not want to go over the edge. And once you're done, just want to make sure that you make sure all of your score tape is down nice and tight on each one. And you're going to get your album back out and open it up. Okay? Now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to be placing these pages in with your fold in an L shape. So your fold is here, the page is up. And we're going to place the first one just on the right side of this fold right here. So, let's go ahead and get our backing off of our score tape. Once again, fold it. And you're going to start, let me zoom back out again. Okay, so you're going to line it up with the cover that we made earlier. So you want to take the bottom of this, put it on the right side of the fold, line it right up with the piece that we put down to cover, give it a little tap, and then make sure you put it all the way to the top and press it down. And that's your first page. Okay? Just like that. So it should match evenly with the cover up that we made. Let me push it in. You see that? Okay. Now, go ahead and fold that one over. Get next page. Take off your score tape backing. Fold it a little bit. Same direction. Fold is here. Go ahead and put it right up against the back of this fold, lined up exactly at the bottom and top as you did the last one. Now you probably have a tiny bit of your cover up that was left that still shows, but the key is that you want to get this one as tightly butted up against this back of this one as you possibly can. So sometimes I know it helps me to kind of first get, like I said, that one little piece there, and then butt it up with both hands. Make sure you're completely even from top to bottom. There we go. There you go. Press it down and fold it over, and it should be even with this one. See that? So we're going to go ahead and place all the pages in exactly the same way. Now this one might be a little bit more difficult because you don't have anything to guide you anymore like you did before. So just go ahead and press it up against the back. Give it a little tap on the end. Make sure that you're firm and press it in. So go ahead and place the rest of your pages. Alright, so are we ready? We're going to get ready to decorate our album, and the first thing I want to show you is that if you're looking straight down at your album this way, you should have a smaller gap on one side and a larger gap at the other. You might be looking at it this way, which of course means that your larger gap is on this side and your smaller gap is on that one. What you want to do is you want to make sure that your larger gap is on your left and turn it down, and this becomes your cover. How I remind myself is I just make a post-it that says cover. Okay? So let's get started. All right, everybody, are you ready? So we've already determined what our cover is, so what we're going to do is just go ahead and set our album aside, and we're getting ready. In your paper pad, I would like for you to locate this piece. It has this cute little fence on the front, and on the back it looks like this. First thing we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and cut off this tab, and we'll be right back. So I'm going to try to explain without confusing you too much what my goal is. I would like for this to be the cover of our album, and we're going to use a couple of these smaller strips on the side to cover these areas right here, and then this little piece right here is going to be our spine. All right, so let's see if I can guide you through this. First thing I want you to do is take your piece and turn it this way. I want you to measure over 8 3/8 and cut. Okay, so this is what you should have. You're going to go ahead and put this into your reserve pile for later. And now you're going to take this piece, you're going to measure over 4 1/4 inches and cut. This is what you should have. Just take this piece and please just set it aside for now. On this piece, you're going to now measure over 6 3/8 and cut. Okay, so this is what you should have. I'd like you to take the smaller piece and just set it aside. This is going to be the piece we're going to be using for our cover. So you should match almost perfectly all the way around with a tiny, tiny black border. Okay? So just set this aside for a minute. You should have this set aside. Keep the smaller one on your set aside with your cover piece. And on this piece, we would like for this to be our spine. And then we're going to use this little piece to cover up those edges like I was telling you. So you can turn it over, measure over 3 1/4 inches and cut. This is what you should have. Turn it back over, small skinny piece, and then your piece for your spine. So put your spine aside. Okay, go ahead and get out these 2 small skinny pieces that we just cut. We're going to score these right down the middle. Now I realize that they're both a little bit thicker, but it's okay because these are going to go right down each side of our album right here just to cover up this kind of spine looking hinge. So you want to get your scoreboard out. I'm going to zoom in. Now this first piece is 1 inch wide exactly. So just go ahead and score it lightly right down the middle at a 1/2 inch. Okay? Now my second piece is 1 1/4. I'm going to score this piece at 5/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right down the middle lightly. You don't want to score it too heavily. And then we're going to go ahead and fold these in half so that the pine trees are on the outside. So your pine trees are here and your opening is here. Okay? So we're going to fit these so they go right here on both sides. So you're going to take this and you're going to put your score tape on the side that has the little berries. Okay? You want to put score tape right along each side of the fold. Don't put it on the fold. Okay, so be very careful. It's going to be kind of hard to see. And then one right along the edge on both sides. I'm having a difficult time seeing where my fold is, so I apologize if I Get a little quiet, I'm concentrating. Make sure that you don't get any over your edge. If you do, you'll need to clip it off. So once again, one right on the right hand side of the fold, and then one right next to the edge on the right, and then turn it around and do the same thing to the other side. To the right hand side of the fold, the crease. I got a little crooked, but that's probably pretty normal for me. Oops, I'm gonna have to trim that off. Now go ahead and do that to both pieces. Once again, turn this one over and follow the exact same thing. Your score tape may overlap on this one, but it's okay. You wanna make sure that your score tape is down nice and tight. I always use the back of my craft tool to just kind of press down the edges, especially the tops where you go to peel it off. It just makes it easier. And then you can also use your craft knife to actually pull off the backs of the score tape. So I'm going to go ahead and take my skinnier one and pull off the back. Now make sure, if you have any little things over, see the little thing I have over the edge, you want to make sure you get all of that off. And if you go over your edge on this side or the other side, you also want to make sure that that's all cut off too. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get this ready to take the backing off. I'm only going to take it off of one side. Okay. Once again, this is the more shallow one I started with. Now, our goal is that this is 8, let me try to here to show you. This is 8.5 total, and this is 8 3/8, right? So we want to leave a 1/16 of an inch at either end. And if it makes it easier, you could put a little mark. In fact, let's do that together. Let's take our ruler and let's make a little mark at a 1/16 and a 1/16 down here. So one's at a 1/16, and then from the other end we're going to make another little mark at a 1/16. So if you hold this up, it should match. Now mine might be just a tiny bit off, but it should match on both ends. So we want to take this, I'm leaning the side that doesn't have the tape off of it up against the back. Being careful, getting it up against my little, so that this crease is right on the crease for this. Okay, measure it up. I'm going to take it. Okay, so I've got my little piece all lined up, hopefully. It's going to take me a second because I moved mine, sorry. So I have this to line up against. Okay, so I'm going to press in the center, back and forth. Okay, so I did the first side. Now the other side still has a score tape on it. Can you see that? And it's just a 1/16 of an inch away from the top and the bottom. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and peel off the other side of this backing. And if you're a little off, it's okay. It happens. Okay. So we got the other part of the backing off. Now, before you push this aside, open your album so that it's kind of at a box shape. Hold it. I know you can see, but I'll hold it nice and stable. Push this piece over, my thumb out of the way, in the middle, go up and go down. Okay? So That's what you should have. Now, the goal is that these little trees are going to match up to the trees here and the trees here on the cover and the back pieces that we cut. Make sure when you placed this that your fence was at the bottom. So remember that this is our cover and that the fence piece was at the bottom, okay? So trees up, fence piece to the bottom. Same with this one. You want to make sure that as you place it, that your fence is at the bottom and your trees are at the top. Hopefully you got that on there right. I apologize. I should have said something. Okay? Go ahead and peel off the backing on this one. I'm going to go ahead and do the front piece first. I struggle. Okay. Got it? Now once again, oops, this is my cover. Fence piece is on my right. I'm just going to lay this down. Just to hold the piece that, this is the side that I'm laying on against the cover that does not have the score tape pulled off yet. Okay, so I'm just kind of laying it there. Just to get my measurements right. Okay, so press this one down. Hopefully your measurements match from here to here and here to here. Again, please don't freak out if it doesn't. The most important thing is that you have your fences at the bottom. Other than that, this is not that big of a deal, okay? So don't freak out if it doesn't work. I'm going to go ahead and pull the score tape off the back of this other half. Okay. Once again, bring your book up. Hold it at a square shape. You know, it's hard to see because you're working. This is the piece I'm going to put down, okay? So I'm going to fold it over in the center and move up and down. Okay? That's what you should have. All right. Okay, so let me zoom out a teeny bit. We're going to be working on the cover, so I'm going to go ahead and just split my book on the inside and lay it down. And the first thing we want to do, is you want to just go ahead and press on this. Make sure that your score tape is down nice and snug. So I'm just pressing right along those seams, okay? Same with this one. Press right along those seams. Okay? Get all that score tape down nice and snug. Okay, so I had you set aside this piece right here with the little fence. I'm going to go ahead and take my Post-it off because I don't need it right now. And this should fit pretty snug on your cover. Okay, go ahead and open it up. Now mine is actually a little snugger than I expected, but you know that's okay because I'd rather be a little wider than I am shorter. So what you want to do is you want to make sure this fits on here first, okay, with about a 1/16 of an inch all the way around. Okay, goes right up against this side. Okay, you guys see that? And go ahead and put score tape on the back. So when you're score taping your cover, it's really important that you put a little extra tape on, because if you don't and you start putting all of your heavy embellishments on it, it may pull off. So we're going to start with a frame. And now remember, I'm on the back part with the hollies. I'm not putting it on the front part. I'm going to go frame all the way around. Okay. And then you want to put a little extra down the sides, because remember, we're going to be putting our clasp. And I realize that the side that has the clasp is actually this side, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little extra anyway. And then we're just going to put some strips down the front. Now, I'm not putting a frame on the cover of this one, as you'll know, because you've already seen what it looks like finished. Most of the stuff I'm putting on is flowers and lighter things, but never assume. So go ahead and use the back of your craft knife to secure your... And if you hear fans in the background, It's like 90 degrees here today, so I apologize. But it's really hot in the warehouse. And we're going to go ahead and remove this backing of our score tape. And place our cover down. It's probably a good idea that you wash your hands and be free of lotion or anything else that you have on your hands, because if you get lotion on the score tape, it makes it less sticky. So you want to just get your hands nice and clean, and it's almost inevitable that you will touch the score tape no matter how hard you try. Alright, so we are going to place our cover. Once again, fins at the bottom. We don't want an upside down bird. Okay, sorry, I needed to zoom back out so you could see a little bit. So we're going to place this on the cover, and you want to match up, if you can, with your edges, the bottom and the top up there, and you want to match up with those as much as you can. Now I have to do this without getting my head in the picture, so bear with me. I am really close all the way around. Alright, so I think I got it lined up. Let me go ahead and press it down. Kept it lined up here and here with this little side piece. Okay? Isn't that beautiful? Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and split my album, set it down, and I had you set aside this piece with the little wagon wheel. This is going to be our spine, and what you'll want to do, if you can, is you want to try to match up, obviously the bottom right here, but also too it should match up perfectly with the fence posts that you have from the pieces that we put down the sides of the spine. So now this piece is 3 1/4 and our spine is 3 1/2. So you'll actually have 1/8 of an inch on both sides. So don't worry about that little extra. That's why we have these, and they should match up with the trees over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and put score tape on the back of our spine. And you're going to be putting a ornate plate on this, so you want to make sure that you give it a little extra down the middle so that it doesn't pull it off. Some more on the side of each of it. Okay. Make sure your score tape is down nice and snug. Okay. Go ahead and peel off the backing of your score tape. Apologize if I get out of the picture. I don't mean to. But it can't be exciting watching me pull the back of my score tape off. Alright. Okay. Once again, make sure that you have it the right direction. I'm going to bring my album back over so you can see. We're going to line this up as best we can and center it. Now, if you feel better making pencil marks, I'm going to go ahead and press down one side, press down the other side. It should match up. Alright, I think I did it. There we go. How about that? So, I did the best I could, and hopefully it lined up pretty good. So now, go ahead and set your album aside. You should have this. It looks just like the one we just pulled. It has the fence on one side, and it has the berry holly berries on the other side. Go ahead and cut the tab off. This is what you should have when you're done. Now, to make sure that your orientation is correct, I want you to turn it again, and I want you to measure over 8 3/8 and cut. this is what you should have. Go ahead and set this in your reserve for later. Now we're going to take this piece. Because I want this side to be my back, I would like you to turn it over, measure over 6 3/8 and cut. This is what you should have. And then when you turn it over, you should have this piece here and this piece here. The one with the wagon wheel, go ahead and set this aside in your reserve. This is going to be our back, okay? So this piece should fit right here. Go ahead and get your score tape on it, and let's get ready. Okay, so we're going to put our score tape on this. Go ahead and turn it over. Holly berries up. And we don't put a lot of embellishments on the back except for the clasp. And so you want to probably just put a little extra tape on the side that has the closure, okay? And I'll show you in just a second. Get my border on. I'm a little crooked, I apologize. So, this side is going to be on the left. So go ahead and turn it over and put a little bit of extra score tape on the side that's going to have your closure. Okay? One down the middle and 2 short ones on each side. Okay, so then go ahead and take the backing off of your score tape. Alright, so let's bring our album back over. And this is the back. Make sure that you have it the right direction. And the same with this, fins at the bottom. Okay, trees to the right. And if you want to open it, you can. This makes it a little bit easier. And once again, you're going to measure up this top piece with this corner. And this bottom piece with this corner. The fence should line up just as if it wrapped around the book. Try to leave about a 1/16 of an inch around the edge on the left and the... Now mine's going to be really close. Okay, make sure it's lined up here. It's lined up there. And go ahead and press it down. Alright, so back, spine, and cover. I think it turned out pretty nice. Now, for those of you who watched my petunia tutorial, I prefer to decorate my cover when I'm done. For a lot of reasons. I spend a lot of time making these really beautiful flowers, and they're going to go on the cover, but I absolutely do not want to put them on now. There's only going to be a few things I'm going to put on now, and then we're going to put all the flowers on last. Okay, I apologize, but when you open the book and you start to place your pages in, you put a lot of pressure on the book, and I don't want to squish all my flowers. So I'm going to do a limited amount of decorating for the cover right now, and then we're going to come back later and add our flowers last. Go ahead and set your album aside for right now. And in your paper pad, I would like for you to locate this page. Sorry, I have little notes on everything. It's the way I run. Let me zoom back out a little tiny bit for you. Okay, so you're going to locate this page. It's got holly berries around the corners and this little lamp post in the bottom left. And on the back, it has a border of holly berries with a yellow center. Go ahead and cut your tab off and throw it away. So our goal is that we're going to use this little piece right here, this little lantern, and we're actually going to get out our excuse me, Festive Holly Cardinals die. And this die fits perfectly. Again, excuse me, I need some water, sorry. It fits perfectly around this, so I'm just going to die cut it out. Now, if you don't have the die, you can fussy cut this out. But first we need to just kind of cut it out, and I don't want to waste a lot of my paper. So what I want you to do is go ahead and turn it sideways, and we're going to cut just above it. So we're going to cut, measure over 4.5 inches and cut. Okay, so this is what you should have. Go ahead and put this larger piece in your reserve for later. And take this piece, and then we're going to just measure over 3.5 inches. Measure 3.5 inches and cut. And this is what you should have. Keep the piece with the lantern and put this in your reserve. So we're going to take this little piece And I'm going to get out my die. Inside my die is this little piece right here. This is the exact die to fit right on this little lantern. Now once again, if you don't have the die, you can just use a nice pair of scissors. We set aside a pair of scissors that we use for fussy cutting only, and that way they don't get dull. You just want to cut right around that little lantern. I'm going to go run mine through the die and I'll be right back. Okay, once I remove my die, I always use a little tiny bit of tape. Okay, this is what you should have. And if you look, and I did a pretty good job. If you want to, and you maybe got a little bit of mess around the edges, go ahead and put this little piece in your reserve. We can use it for later. So sometimes if you like to, if you don't like these little white edges, you can just take your Memento ink and daub around the edges. I'll be right back. So in order not to have those little white edges, basically I'm just going to take my Memento Black Tuxedo, which I told you I used earlier. I'm just going to daub a little, and I'm just going to go around the edges to get rid of some of that. Okay? And it just keeps it from having a kind of a white halo around the edges. Just daub. Don't daub too hard, because then you'll take away some of your pretty little lantern. Just going to go around. And we're going to be covering up the base of this with the holly berries that we made and I showed you earlier. When I show you where this is going to go, it'll make a lot more sense. So I'm just going to go around the edges. And a lot of people like to do this with everything that they cut. So even when they cut out edges of things in fussy cut, they'll go all the way around just to kind of get rid of that funny little white edge. It's kind of hard to get in some of the little edges, but I think I did a pretty good job. Okay, let's get our album back out. And I'm zoomed kind of far in. I guess I can zoom out just a tiny bit. So the goal, and I'm going to put something underneath of mine to get it to sit up so you can see it right. Alright, so I'm just using a Martha Stewart punch, and it gives me that ability to kind of put that up so you can see what's going on. Right here, next to the bird, is where I want to put my little lantern. But I'm not going to just lay it flat. I'm actually going to use my Zots. And these Zots are little three-dimensional sticky dots that I'm going to put right behind it. So I'm going to adhere a couple of little Zots right here and here. And when I place it on there, it's actually going to make it stick up and be 3D. So go ahead and get your Zots out. I'm going to use 2. And just go ahead and stick them right on the back. Now I'm going to take this away so I don't get anything. There's my Zot. These are cool because they're individual. So you can just peel one of them, the backing off of it, and press it down on the top half. You see, let me pull this up so you can see it. My light gives a really bad glare. So that's a Zot. Okay, and press it down nice and firm. And then peel off the backing. It's kind of like Jello. It's weird. Alright? Don't touch it and don't set it down on the table. Otherwise you'll have your lantern stuck to your table. Go ahead and get your second Zot. Peel off one side of the backing. And set this second one. Now we might put a third one in there. It's not going to hurt anything. Maybe we will put a third one in there. Okay, so let's go ahead and peel off the back of that Zot. I'm actually going to put a third one. Get another Zot. Can't hurt anything. Alright. Take off the backing. Guess you have to keep the one that actually has the Zot still on it. Alright. Press the third one down so it kind of looks like a stoplight. You see that? Pull off the back. Now this one's going to be interesting to not get my fingers in the other Zots. Alright. Got them all down? So bring your album back over. Now be careful. Now what we're going to do is I want to make sure I have room for my clasp over here. So you don't want to put anything where your clasp is going to go. So this is actually going to go approximately, see the little bird? I'm going to be to the right of the bird, and I'm going to be right about where the little snow-capped holly is. So I'm going to press it right. Actually, let's do this. Let's press the tip of this right on this. Let me zoom. I'm going to make it really easy for you, okay, guys? All right, see this little snow-capped holly right to the right of the bird? Put the tip of this right on the holly. Make sure it's straight. Okay? You see that? Let me zoom back out a little bit. Okay, once you have it on there, go ahead and press. Don't press too hard, just press it down. And that should be 3D, see? Sticking up. Let me see if I can get my Martha Stewart stamp out from underneath my... See how it's going to stick up a little bit? That's kind of cute, huh? Now, let me finish the goal of what's going on here. Actually, I'm going to leave my Martha Stewart's punch in there for you, so you can see what's going on. The goal is that I'm going to take some of these little berries that I made earlier and camouflage the bottom of that. So we could actually place one of those on there now, and I'm going to figure out which direction I want it to go. So, and maybe we could even put zots behind these. Now, if you want to make them 3D, you could actually put green on the back, which we could easily do, and then come back, go back and put some green, and then we could put zots underneath of those, and they would stick up as well. Or we can just place it right there, and it camouflages that so that it looks like the lamppost is back behind the fence. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and place that one down with my glue. Now I don't want to cover my little bird, but I want to definitely camouflage my little... So I'm going to place it right about there, and I'm letting my little leaves just kind of flow free right now. I just put glue underneath of my berries. Oops. So I just have glue underneath my berries, and I'm letting my leaves just kind of free flow right now. I can go back and glue those down later if I decide that I don't want them that way, but it gives them a little more three-dimensional depth. Now I have several more of these, which I really like, and you know, I may place some more here later, but for right now I'm going to let those dry and make the decision. Now the other thing I could do is I could place some right up underneath the edge of this, and with my zots in there I can't go too far, but maybe I could take one of the smaller ones. So let's do this later. I don't want to put these on right now. Just go ahead and let that one set, and we'll move on and we'll decorate this later. All right, so go ahead and get out your grits, and mine are nickel plated. Oops, sorry, fumble. I'm gonna get out one set. I just placed this down, and I'm telling you, it's a good thing that I didn't put this down all the way, because my closure needs to go right underneath of that holly leaf. So now you understand why I don't like doing my cover first, because I end up messing up. But fortunately for me, I didn't glue down that holly berry all the way down, so my grits is actually going to be covered up by the berry, which is a good thing. But now I need to glue it down. So what you want to do is you want to place your grits, not the hook, but the eye. And I centered mine, so you can see I centered mine right there. Okay, I'm going to glue it down, and then I'm going to use a clamp and let it set while I go ahead and start designing the inside of the album. So go ahead and get some glue. Use a little bit of my art glitter glue with my little glue tip. We don't use glue guns for this because it leaves too much residue. So I'm just going to set that right underneath my holly berries. Hopefully not glue my holly berries down. and that should be about centered. Excuse my head if I get in the middle of the picture. You always want to make sure before it's dry that you can get your hook, oops, in it. Okay, so sometimes I just leave my hook right there. I'm going to push it back just a little tiny bit. Make sure it's straight. Get my clamp. Alright, do not clamp your pages to it. Maybe I will take the hook off. Put your clamp and clamp it down. Now, so I'll leave that on there till it dries. And we'll go ahead and move on to page 1. So, are you ready to get started on page 1? In your paper pad, you should find this piece. It looks like this on one side, and on the other side it looks like this. And this is really shiny. Can't remember what you call it. Gold foiled, that's right, and it's red. So, what we're going to do is go ahead and cut the tab off first. Okay, so then what I want you to do is you're going to turn it this way, and you're going to measure over 8 inches and cut. Okay, this is what you should have. We are going to be using a couple of these, so if you just want to set this to the side, that's fine. Now you're going to take this in this direction. You're going to measure over 6 inches and cut. So you'll have 4 of these and 4 of these. Alright, so this is what you should have. And actually we're going to be using this side. I just wanted to make sure that we had the right cards cut off. So this is going to be part of page 2, and this is going to be part of page 1. So go ahead and set this aside. And then you can go ahead and set this aside for right now too. Okay, now go back in your paper pad and locate this piece of paper. It looks like this on the front with the cardinals, and on the back it has several cards. Once again, I'd like you just to go ahead and cut off the tab and throw it away. So this is what you should have. You're going to turn it counterclockwise, and you're going to measure over 8 inches and cut. Okay, this is what you should have. Go ahead and set this piece aside for right now. Turn this one back the correct way. And now I want you to measure over 6 inches and cut. Okay, so this is what you should have. This is actually going to be the back of page 1. Okay, so we're going to create kind of a gatefold and use the rest of the remnants that we just cut to cover the backs and fronts of it. So go ahead and set these 2 pieces that we just cut with page 1's reserve pile, or set aside pile, I apologize. Go ahead and get out a new piece of black cardstock, okay? And we're going to create the folds now. So what you want to do is you want to measure over 4 inches on the landscape and cut. Okay, this is what you should have. Go ahead and set this just aside for just a second. Now take this piece and measure over 5 inches and cut. This is what you should have. You can go ahead and put this small piece in your stockpile with your other cardstock. And now we're going to take these 2 pieces, and you can do them together or separate, it's up to you. But basically we want to measure over, on both of these pieces, measure over 8 inches and cut. Okay, so both of these are going to be 8 inches, they're just going to be wider. So we'll take the first one and measure over 8 inches and cut, and this is what you're going to have. And then I'm going to take the second piece and measure over 8 inches and cut. And this is what I'm going to have. I'm going to take these 2 little strips, and just put them in my stockpile. So let's start with the shallower one. So we're going to start with the one that's 4 by 8. Go ahead and set this aside with page 1's papers. Getting out our scoreboard. Sorry, my camera wiggles around a little bit. And we're going to score at 3 inches and 3 1/8. Okay? So 3 inches and 3 1/8. Go ahead and fold it. Now this 65-pound paper should fold pretty well, so you shouldn't have too much trouble folding it. but you can see me, I'm already struggling, which I have to laugh about. These little 1/8 of an inch scoring, sorry, I'm not even in my thing. These little 1/8 of an inch scores, I struggle with them sometimes. All right, so let me zoom back out a little tiny bit. There we go. Sometimes I wonder if it's easier for you to see me closer or far away. So this is what you should have. It should have an 1/8 of an inch spine on the side of it. And you're going to go get your paper that has the cardinals on the top left corner. This is 8 by 6. We cut it just a moment ago. And it should fit perfectly on the side like this, top to bottom. Just make sure it fits, because if it doesn't, you'll need to cut it again. So in your reserve, this was the first piece that we cut. This should also be a 6 by 8. We're going to be using half of this to cover the front of this flap. So go ahead and place it on, and leaving it about a 1/16 of an inch all the way around. I'm going to scroll in. Now I know it gets difficult for you guys to see on my desk, so sometimes I'll get out a white piece of paper just to show you. So basically you want to take this piece that we cut, and you want to get your pencil, and you want to fit it so that you have about a 1/16 of an inch all the way around. And most importantly though, what I want you to make sure you do is cut this piece off first, and then the small piece off the bottom. So I'm going to cut the long way first. This other half is going to go on the other side of the fold. Okay, this is what I have. This is the piece that I measured that fits perfectly on there. Back out a little bit. I've got so much going on and not enough space. I'm so sorry. I'm really working with limited space. This is what I cut off. I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to keep this little piece. It isn't anything I can do anything with, so I will throw that away. Put this back over here and hold it for a moment. Okay, so you can go ahead and glue this piece on, leaving about a 1/16 of an inch all the way around. Oops. Make sure that when you put this on, that your fold is on the left-hand side, and don't go over your creases, okay? Leaving just a little 1/16 of an inch all the way around. Okay, you can see that. Put that on that piece of paper so you can see what's going on. Alright, so for the inside, we're going to go back and we're going to get the sheet that we set aside. Sorry, I have so much stuff, I apologize. It's really hard for me when you have limited space. Okay, we're going to go get the piece that we set aside that looks like this. There'll be a little tiny tree at the bottom that was cut off, okay? And this piece, using this side, we are going to measure it to go on the back side of this, just like we did this last one, leaving about a 1/16 of an inch all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and measure and cut. Now make sure that you don't go over your fold. Your fold line is right here, so you want to measure. I bring mine down so I can see a little bit better. Measure the 1/16 there. And then I'm going to be cutting off a tiny bit at the bottom. Once again, I'm going to cut this long side first, so I'm going to measure over this way and cut, and then cut the little piece off the bottom second. This is what I have when I'm done. Again, I'm not going to keep this little teeny piece. I'm going to set this one with the little tree to the side. Make sure that I measured and cut correctly. Alright, I did do a good job. And I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. Make sure that you have this side glued and this side up. Place it on. Make sure that you are about a 1/16 of an inch away from all the edges. Do not go over your crease. Now, I'm going to set this aside for just a moment. That other piece of black cardstock that we cut earlier, okay, the one this is the one we've set aside. It is 5 by 8. Okay, get your scoreboard out. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to score on the left-hand side because I'm going to actually be punching this side. So I'm going to score. I made little marks, but I'm going to score at 6/8 7/8. Okay, so I scored at 6/8 and 7/8. You zoom back out. All right, go ahead and leave it flat for right now if you'd like. And I want you to go ahead and get out your punch. Now what I'm using is this beautiful EK Tools punch, and we just got this in, and I showed you in the materials, and what it looks like is this. All right, and I'm just going to punch right along the opposite side that I just scored. So I'm going to punch right along that side, and I always start in the middle. Now this does have kind of a distinctive pattern, so I want to keep it centered as much as possible. And if you're really anal about things, since this is 8 inches long and this is 6 inches long, you should have 1 inch on both sides. I'm pretty good at measuring by visual, so I'm going to go ahead and punch this. Now, if you've never used one of these before, basically once you punch the first punch, you bring it out and you line it up with the pattern that they put on the other side. You always want to make sure that you punch all the way through, okay? So I'm going to measure it up, get it on there. Okay, bring this one over here. So what you should have is the score marks on the right, and then you have your nice punch on the left. Go ahead and fold it. I had you hold this other piece that we cut earlier. And this one is the only one left that's this size, so you shouldn't have a problem. Basically, you're going to make sure that you got your fold all down. You're going to cut this and measure it to fit on here. So let's go ahead and measure, leaving about 1/16 of an inch. And we're going to go ahead and cut. Okay, this is what I have left. I will keep this little tiny strip like here and put it in my reserve pile. This little teeny thing, I doubt I'm going to need, so I'm going to go ahead and throw that away. I promise I won't call for it because it won't be in my reserve for me to call. All right, so now this should fit on here. Okay, and go ahead and glue that down. Okay, it's all nice and down neat. Okay. Now we can turn it over, push the fold out. And you should now also have the second half of the one we cut earlier for the inside of this. Has the little tree at the bottom. Okay. We're going to put a little pocket on here. So I'm going to, now that we don't need the white paper, set this over here for just a second. So in your reserve, you should find a small piece of black cardstock that we cut off earlier. It's about 2 inches by 8.5 inches. And we're going to make a pocket on this. So we're going to punch it across the top. Let me get this out of the way. So I don't need it to be very long. So go ahead and cut it off. Cut off, measure over 6 inches and cut. All right, so go ahead and put this small piece in your reserve, in your stockpile. And we're going to go ahead and punch across the top of this. Now, I know that this is a 6-inch punch. I've measured it across this way to this way to this way. I'm just going to place it in perfectly even. And the reason for that is because if you notice, this has a small flower and then a larger flower. I would like this to be centered on this little tiny pocket that I'm making. So I'm just going to make sure that I put it in there completely even and then start punching. So be very careful if you want it to be centered. It's not that huge of a deal, but for me, that's the goal. All right, so go ahead and put that away. Now, before we add the pocket to this, we need to measure it. Now, I don't know if you've never taken one of my tutorials before. Whenever I want to remember that I need a magnet, I leave a little post-it. I'm not gluing it down yet. So take this piece that we had with the little tree at the bottom that I told you to pull out a minute ago, and go ahead and measure this, leaving 1/16 of an inch all the way around, and cut it to fit the inside of this. Okay? So now I'm going to go ahead and go cut this. I'll be right back. Okay, so this is what you should have. Once again, I don't keep this little teeny piece, but I am going to keep this strip and put it in my reserve. Now, get your magnets out. I want you to set 2 aside for right now. So, taking this, go get your piece that you just stamped. And now I would like to make sure that my pocket has an even flower. Let me zoom in. Okay? I don't know if you can see this, but it's got a larger flower here and a smaller flower here. So I'm going to put this on here as evenly as I possibly can. Okay? So that my flower's in the middle, and I'm just going to mark. Pull it up a little bit so I can see the bottom. Alright, so I'm just going to make a little pencil mark where I'm going to do my folds. Alright, can everybody see that? So what we're going to do is just put a little piece of score tape right along the bottom. Make sure that none of it goes over the edges. Use your craft knife if you like to secure it down and pull off the backing of the score tape. I use a glue gun to attach my hinges on the other side. I'm going to give it just a tiny bend. And, oops, measure up those little lines so that they're on both sides as carefully as I can, keeping it right at the bottom. Press and hold and flip it over. Use my glue gun. Oops, gotta fold it first, Valerie. Silly me. Okay, take my glue gun and tap it down. Getting hot glue on my fingers. Yes. And so now I have a nice little pocket. It's not a big pocket. I was thinking it'd be cute for a tag or a little journaling card. It's up to you. Okay, so go ahead and get out this piece that we had. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to put, the hinge is facing up on the right, and you've got your punched area on the left, okay? And we're going to go ahead and put a magnet right here. Now, your preference of how you like to put magnets on, I actually like to take a little piece of score tape and put it right on top of it. Okay, so I'm just going to place it right about center and about there. Okay, I just threw a little piece of score tape. You can glue it down, it's your preference. And set the mate over here for a second. Now, we're going to go ahead and glue this down this direction. And if you'd like to make sure that your magnet stays in place, I can go ahead and pull my score tape backing off of it. And then I'm going to place this on the other side first so it doesn't stick on it. And that just reassures me that my magnet's in place. I don't have to worry about losing it. Okay? Once again, I put magnet stickers, pretty much Post-its that say magnet on them, on anything that I want to remember to put a magnet on, because I am really, really bad about remembering my magnets. Well, I had you hold aside this piece right here that's 8 by 6 with the cardinals on it. This is the one that we're going to attach these fold-outs on. So get your shorter fold-out without the punch edge. And what you want to do is you want to take it and make sure that you fold it so that both of the scores are showing on this side and no score on this side, okay? You're going to put it on the right side with the cardinals on the left. Make sure that it's even this direction, so both ends tuck in. Push it right up against the fold there, okay? Pinch, turn it over, don't let go. If you let go and it moves, do it again, okay? And then you're going to go ahead and tack it down. And then go ahead and push it back so that you have your little spine flat along your edge. Okay? Now, we're going to do the same thing with this one. First of all, make sure that your score lines are on the top. Okay? Take this piece, push it in, make sure it's even, make sure the score line is pushed up against the side of the card, okay, so that it looks like this on the front. Pinch it, turn it over, lay it down, make sure it's all straight, and go ahead and tack this down. All right, and once again, pull the spine back, and you should have this. You open it up, your pocket is on your left, open up the other side, looks like that. Okay, now we need to adhere our magnet so that this magnet will keep it shut. So what you want to do is go ahead and take your other half of your magnet, let it find its mate. Can you see that? All right. Now again, you can glue that down, or with me, I'm just going to go ahead and get a piece of score tape, tiny little 1-inch piece of score tape, and I'm just going to place it right on top of it. I find that sometimes if I glue them down and I make a mistake, or that it's not holding it correctly for some reason, I can pop that off easier. It's just my preference. You don't have to do it that way. Now, if your magnet, it should be holding everything nice and neat, okay? See how that works? So we need to put a little bit of paper across the bottom of our punch here. And earlier we had these two pieces that we cut off that are in our reserve. One has the little red sparkles and one is the paper that we cut off of this. Go ahead and get those two pieces out right now. And I'm going to put the blue one on first, and I'm going to measure it so that it's at the bottom half. Let me zoom in. I'm going to measure it so that it's at the bottom half, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this other little one, and it's going to be kind of like a trim to match. So they're going to just butt up against each other, and then I'm just going to put some embellishments over the seam. Okay, so first just take this one and measure it and cut. Now I probably could just go ahead and use my scissors because I'm pretty good at that. I'm going to put this other little piece that I cut off back in my reserve. So that piece is going to go there. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this one down. Okay, so glue that little piece down there. And when I mean little, I mean little. I'm going to take this piece, measure it so that it's exactly the same length as the one I just did. Take the little remnant, put it back in my reserve, and glue the back of this piece, stick it right on top. Oops. So I'm going to go get my flat back pearl trim, and I'm just going to trim that little seam with some flat back pearls. So go ahead and get your flat back pearls out, and I prefer to cut off these little, I don't know if you can see those little ends that are sticking out. Alright, so measure this to fit. Alright, I'm going to take my glue and glue these little pearls right along that edge. Then I'm going to get out my bling. Alright, so I got my bling, and I'm going to run a little bling right there along the top of the red strip, right underneath my punch. So measure that out. Okay. I wonder if it helps you guys that I zoom in, or if you prefer that I be way out. I just think it's easier if you can see what I'm doing. Hold that there for a second, and then we'll move on. So I've decided I want to put a little rhinestone bling in the center of that. And in the materials, I told you that we have 1/2-inch bling, and then we also have 1/4-inch bling. And I think I'll use the 1/4-inch bling. So before you glue this down, I've just got a little piece of cardstock. I know you can kind of see that. It's just a little remnant piece I had in the garbage. I'm putting it behind because I don't want to get any glue and stick my lace down on my paper in the background. I'm just going to put a little tiny bit of glue on around the outside of that flower so that I can glue this little stone right there in the center of my flower. Okay? Now, I'm going to leave that little card in there for now because I don't want it to glue down. If it, you can kind of move it around, but just make sure that you let it dry before we go any further. So, what we're going to do is we're going to bling up this a little bit too, and I mean literally. One of the things I want to do is I want to go ahead and run a line of pearls and a line of bling, and then I'm going to add the same little 1/4 inch blings to the center of these. So I need you to get a piece of paper to stick up underneath of this so that you don't have any problems with these going through. So first of all, I'm going to turn mine sideways. I'm just going to make it easier. And I'm going to measure out my bling. Okay. I'm going to measure my bling. Oh, I know, let's zoom in. Here, let's see if this helps. I don't want to get too far so you can't see it. So I'm going to measure my bling out, cut it, and glue it down. And I apologize if you can hear the guys next door. But once again, I think I've told you before, I work in the warehouse in my office, and it's the only place that I'm by myself, but unfortunately, I have workers next door. So, I'm going to go ahead and put a glue, and some glue along the edge of this, and then I'm going to put my bling down. Takes a couple seconds or so to dry, so you kind of have to hold it in place. Make sure that dries, because on this paper, because it has a glossy finish on it, this bling will scooch around. So you want to be really careful that it's dry before you move it around. Okay, so now I'm going to get those same flat back pearls, and I measured a piece that's going to fit along next to my bling. And I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. Once again, I'm going to give it a couple minutes. This is actually easier to keep on because it's going to push right up against your bling. So you just want to let that dry. I'm going to get out my 1/4 inch flat back bling, and I'm going to get out 3 of them. And I still have my white paper underneath there. I'm very carefully going to place one in the center of this flower, one in the center of that flower, and one in the center of that flower. I'm only gluing on the cardstock around the circles, and you don't need a ton of glue because it'll ooze out. But you do have this piece of paper in the background that we're going to leave there until everything is dry, okay? And the glue does dry clear, so you don't have to worry if you get a little bit on your cardstock. But I have a little bling in the center of each of those. Once again, I'm going to leave the paper until it dries, okay? So we'll get back together as soon as this is dry. So hey, I just came up with something that I really want to do, and so I'm going to add something to the front of this first page that we did earlier. And you're going to need your zots again, and those little cards that we cut off from the side of this paper. So it looks just like this on one side, and then it has all these little cards on the other. We are going to cut out this card and this card. So basically you're going to measure over 6 inches and cut, and then you're going to cut these 2 in half. So we're going to keep these 2 cards. Okay, let's go cut. Okay, so these are the 2 that we left together. We're going to go ahead and put those back in our reserve, and these are the 2 that you're going to keep. Okay, so just set this one up here for a second and leave this one down here. In your reserve, you should have a piece of cardstock that we had cut from our pages. And let me double check just to let you know how big it is. It should be 4 by 8.5. Okay. You're going to take this little card, and it should fit with just about a 1/16 of an inch, maybe a little bit more, all the way around on 3 sides. So basically, you're just going to measure and cut right here. So let me zoom in. Not too far. And get my piece of white paper because I know this helps. Okay, so as you can see, I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to make a little mark right here. Okay, so that's where I'm going to cut. I'll be right back. So this is what you should have. This is the piece we're going to keep. We're going to put this back in our stockpile. So you're going to take this and you're just going to place it and glue it down right on that piece that you just cut. So I've got it all placed down. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to place this on the cover of our first page. And I do tend to break up my discussions because apparently I can't talk and do this at the same time. So I know that we have our embellishments, and that's why we need the dots. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to put maybe some little marks. It's up to you, but we're going to place this card right here. I'm going to take a pencil and lightly mark where I'm going to place this, just so my dots go within the little pencil areas. So I just made a little pencil mark here and a little pencil mark there. I know you can't see it. I will zoom in if it helps. Okay, they're going to be erasable, but I just want to make sure that my dots are within here. So go ahead and get your dots out. I'm going to take my first dot. It's a funny word, dot. And I'm going to place it just to the right, I'm sorry, the left of the pearls, okay? I'm just going to press one dot down and peel off the backing. Kind of have to press them down hard, okay guys? About an inch up from the other one, same, right next to the pearls. And then one more dot, again about an inch above that one. You know, you can see them, they kind of look like little blobs of water to you, don't they? Now, I've got 3 dots on, and my pearls are probably a little taller than my dots. I'm going to double dot. I don't know if this is going to work. I've never tried to double dot before. So I'm putting a dot on top of a dot. And I'm not even sure it's going to stay. Ugh. There, it worked. So double dots. So basically you're using 6 dots, okay guys? Apologize, I moved it. So let's finish putting our dots on. A little secret about these dots is actually, especially when we're doubling them, if you actually press it down pretty firmly all the way around and then pull up the backing, it'll actually come up better. So I just kind of had to press it down a couple times till it attached. So now these should be raised up pretty nicely. Now, you want to make sure that it's pretty even on both sides. So I don't know how good you are at eyeballing. It's a matter of opinion. If you prefer to measure, let's talk about measuring. So if you take this and put a little mark, hashtag, at 1.5-ish, you know what I mean, you'll be at the center mark and you'll know where to place this. So I have my little pencil mark here that I made earlier. Now I have a little pencil mark. I don't know if you can see that. There, see the little middle pencil mark? I'm going to use that to measure right up to the right of my bling, so I know I'm kind of centered. And actually I'm going to make one at the top too. And the reason for that, and I hope I don't get my head in the way, is that we're going to place it, and I'm probably going to get my head in the way, but I'm going to try really hard not to. Alright, so this is what I call center. I'm going to press it on my dots. So this is actually going to be kind of cool because it's 3D. Okay, you can see that. Now it's going to still stay with the magnet. It's not going to hurt that magnet at all. We're going to take the back half of this, which matches here, and I'm just going to slide it in there until it pops up against my dots. Okay, leaving about a little 1/16 of an inch. Here, let me zoom in. Let me get my white piece of paper. I'm not going to push it too hard, okay? I'm just going to measure it. I guess I'm a little too zoomed. I'm going to measure it right here. And then I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to glue it right on top of this, underneath of my punch, okay? So I'm just going to pop it in there. I apologize. I should have done this ahead of time, but I wasn't sure exactly how much we were going to need. So go ahead and don't push it in too hard. You're going to stick it against your dots, and it won't come back out. So I just made a little mark. I'm going to go cut it. So this is what you should have. I'll put this in my reserve. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the back of this, and I'm just going to place it underneath on top of this little black card that I just placed in. Okay, just going to slide it right in here. Push it up against my dots. Just place that right on the back of that. So when you open it up, let me zoom back out. So that's what that looks like now. It's going to close up like it did before. Open it up. Has this little matching card back here. We can still use our pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and put my score tape on the back of page 1. And I'm going to embellish after I put it in the book. So go ahead and run a frame of score tape around the outside edges. Like that. One down the middle. And 2 shorter. 1 short on each side of the middle piece. Okay, so are you ready for page 2? I just set this aside for page 2. This is going to be the back of page 2, and we're just going to create a nice simple little pocket. So in your stockpile, you should have a piece of stock, black cardstock that is 4 by 8.5. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our EK punch, and we're going to punch across the top of this. So we're going to be punching along the long side. I'm going to go ahead and place it right in the middle so that I can get my little flower that I have right here. We talked about that earlier, right in the top. And go ahead and punch across the top of it. Okay, so we're just going to put this right on the bottom of this. So go ahead and get out your score tape. Place a piece of score tape at the bottom. Make sure it's nice and secure. Pull off the backing. Now we're going to take our piece that we punched and we're going to set it in the middle so it's even on both sides. Place it on the bottom. Middle out. Go ahead and turn it over. Fold over your little flaps. And I'm using my glue gun to tack it down. I had you set aside this piece earlier. It has the little cardinals on the right. And on the other side it looks like this. I'm going to place it so that this corner is in the bottom right corner here. So when I cut this off, I'm actually going to have a strip that's still going to have one of these little cardinals on it, and I can use it later. So go ahead and measure out, leaving about a 1/16 of an inch of black all the way around, and cut that, and I'll be right back. Okay, this is what I have. The little strip here with the cardinal. It's going to go back up in my reserve. This is the piece that's going on here, and this is also going in my reserve. Go ahead and make sure that you measured correctly and that it all fits, and glue it down. Alright, so I'm going to get out my bling, and I'm going to measure out a piece of bling that's going to fit right at the top of this pocket underneath the punch. Cut it to fit and glue it down. And then I'm going to go ahead and get the same flat back pearls, the white ones that we used earlier, so we can match our other page, and I'm going to place a little strand of that just underneath of my bling. So obviously that's going to take a couple minutes to dry. Okay, now that this is dry, we're going to go ahead and put our score tape on the back. Are you ready? Just put a frame around it, one down the center, and 2 short ones, one on each side. And we'll go ahead and pull it off and get it ready to put in our album. So I told you earlier that we don't place page 1 in first because this actually is bigger than this page because it's the outside or the back half of the cover. So what we want to do is we want to line up, and I'm going to put a piece of paper in here because this is going to make it easier for you to see where this page ends and starts. You're going to take page 2 and you're going to keep it away from your fold right here of page 2 and keep it on the right hand side, and you should have about an 1/16 of an inch all the way around. So I'm hoping I don't get my head in the way. But you want to go ahead and place that page 2, on here. And once again, I try to stay away from the right side and get it placed on here. And I did a pretty good job without getting my head in the picture. So I'm about a 1/16 of an inch all the way around, and I got a more like an 1/8 of an inch over here. So now we're going to go ahead and take off the score tape off the back of page 1. Okay, so now that we have the score tape backing off of page 1, we're going to place it in. And what you want to do is you want to place it straight across from this one. Now there's a little secret, is that you have this advantage. Let me go ahead and scroll in. This little cover that we put on earlier, if you start placing it just about an 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch down, it should match up across the top of this one because that's how far down I am on this side. And then I'm going to try to stay about the same distance away as I did here on the left-hand side of this spine fold. Okay, so excuse my head, but I may get it in there. Just need to get that corner on there. Apologize, I know I have my head in there, but I needed to do that for just a second. All right, so got that in there. Go ahead and open these up and press down. Okay, page 1 and 2. Okay, so I'm going to grab one of the poinsettias that I made earlier, and I'm going to place my first one right here in the corner. So I'm going to get my glue gun. I'm just going to tack it down. I'm going to take one of my sets of berries. Okay, so I'm going to take one of my berries, and I'm actually just going to tuck it so it looks like it's coming out from underneath of the card we pasted on here earlier. So I'm just going to get a little bit of glue and tuck it right up underneath it there. So that's my page 1 embellishments. And my page 2 embellishments, I'm getting one of my smaller poinsettias. And I'm going to take it, I'm going to put it right here. And then I have one of my larger berries. I'm going to tuck it up underneath it here. And just kind of place it on here. I'll check on those a little bit later just in case. So we are done with page 1 and 2. We can move on.